You've heard a little about Ponga to organize photos so that you can use them as a new way to share stories privately in pictures. So let's dive in and learn about the ways you might use Ponga for family history and genealogy. If you've heard all this before, just fast forward a stitch or two to an area that's new to you. Ponga is all about stories and pictures. It's software that runs in your browser and gives you a way to organize your photos so that you can use them to privately share stories rich with context with family and friends. This context can include documentation, insights, and background in any form, from maps and videos to presentations and recordings. This combination of storytelling and media can be used to share the larger story captured in a photograph. Individually or combined with albums, Ponga pictures are all private and shared only by invitation. Wrapped in context and shared as private links, Ponga pictures become like platters passed around at a family to put stories back into circulation. And really, it's the stories that connect us. Your Ponga membership protects the privacy of your pictures, but as a member, you can invite as many free guests as you'd like. I hope that gives you the context to see where we're going. Now, you can learn more about what Ponga can do for you. I hope that gives you the context to see where we're going. Now let's learn more about what you can do with Ponga. In this video, we'll talk about how Ponga creates an entirely new way to capture your research, crowdsource stories, and curate your family legacy using pictures. I'll focus on each area with examples and even the voices of some of our members. As always, remember, we'd be delighted to invite you to be one of our guests to explore a Ponga picture on your own. Just reach out to us at ponga.com/invite me. Let's start with a simple case of using Ponga to capture details as you do your family research. Family history research can be a complicated process involving investigations that take you down internet rabbit holes on a Tuesday, over to a cousin's den on a Thursday, and up into the library stacks on a Saturday. That can mean that for a lot of the time, you're working on your own, collecting documents and developing hypotheses. While you probably have a favorite note-taking tool to capture words, images, and links, how do you get into the image? You probably learned in elementary school how to point to something on the blackboard. Ponga gives you a way to point to anything in any image and research the specific answers. Further, in digital form, you can use that visual context to not only ask a question, but to also answer it with what you know so far, list sources, or hypothesize new questions. Sharpies and markups on images can only go so far, but Ponga is designed to do exactly this. You can use it to park ideas or explore what you've learned, and add images taken from screenshots, from book scans, and from other photographs. You can add little notes with your own voice or the people you're interviewing. Remember that in Ponga, selection areas can be any arbitrary pixel range in an image. You can zoom way in on an image and select tiny detail to add comments and references. Then copy a link for that selection and paste it into another Ponga picture, document, or note-taking tool. It's powerful by itself and in combination with other tools. If you're already a visual thinker, consider that Ponga pictures don't have to be photographs. They just have to start as image files. Screenshots work, as would exports from PDF documents, maps, and an endless array of illustrations. In fact, you can use illustrations to create very useful tools for note-taking during research. Consider the military movement maps of World War II. In this military movement map of the Timberwolves of World War II, a Ponga picture of the map is linked with stories of movements, photographs, and other artifacts, and becomes a powerful way to connect place and time for the purposes of research. Similarly, you can use screenshots or beautifully formatted family trees to capture research as you're working. It's particularly useful when you're capturing details you aren't quite sure of yet. Unlike static screenshots, you can attach what you know, then mark up a little bit more as you progress, leaving a cookie trail behind you that you can follow and add or update as you go. As useful as Ponga is to use by yourself, it's even more powerful when you use it together with others to collaborate. This is where you use Ponga to crowdsource stories. Crowdsourcing can mean different things to different people, but generally we use the term to refer to asking a number of people to help compile a larger story. The wider a net you cast, the more likely it is someone you touch will know something that might be helpful. That said, be thoughtful. If you were invited, you'd want to know why, wouldn't you? So tell people you are inviting what their connection is and why you're inviting them. Make them feel special by telling them who else is in the group you've invited. And finally, guide them into the picture, seeding it with a few questions. Essentially, ask them what you want to know. For example, I know this was either John or Bob, but I can't be sure. Do any of you have ideas? Think of yourself as hosting a party in pictures. As the host, you're the one to get the conversation rolling. It could be a formal family history or might just be the capturing the memories of a loved one or a shared experience. But like most collaborative projects, a little structure and a few deadlines can be helpful. Sometimes that's done with one organizer or more announcing the project and inviting others to join in. The best projects also add deadlines and give everyone involved some personal benefit for participating. Sometimes that's as simple as credit, but more typically involves access to the collected information. There are a few ways to do all of this, which vary the social factors that bring people together. Our best advice is to let the social fabric that's already present help you with your goal. That can mean wrapping the effort around milestone birthdays or special events and memorials. It can also mean asking the most senior people who might object or be put off to engage first so that others can see that if the elder can do it, they can too. As you do this, keep two factors in mind. First is that photographs can trigger memories in ways that words alone cannot. Sometimes you just need to put a photograph in front of someone and ask a simple question. Do you remember this? That can sometimes be enough. With most, however, you want to be very sensitive to who they are and how they're comfortable sharing stories. Zoom and other video conferencing tools are a wonderful way to have a live conversation that focuses on details in an image. You need do nothing special in Ponga, just use it to provide the visual context for details in an image. Using Ponga to literally zoom in and out of the details is also a great way to ask questions. Since you can share a screen, the person or people you're asking questions of don't need to have any technical skills. It's just as if you're pointing into a blackboard. You can record the session and then capture the stories for your research notes. More about that in Ponga's course about using Ponga to jump the generation gap using Zoom. As a member, you can invite as many people as you like. In fact, you can batch invitations to a group of people all at once by pasting in a string of email addresses separated by commas. Then add a single message to everyone. But be careful, no one wants to be spammed. The best approach is to use your personal email to tell your guests what to expect and why you're inviting them. Then send your invitations from Ponga. We have a best practices article that can help you with this. See tips.ponga.com. I mentioned 3 ways to use Ponga to bring family and friends together with stories. The third way is probably most obvious. Quite simply, use it to curate stories you want to preserve in a family legacy. This might not be something you're preparing for an individual or for a performance. Instead, it's something that you're capturing to tell that larger story you can leave behind as a part of a legacy. That all might sound very grand and self-important, but even the most pedestrian stories of daily life or the origin stories of familiar objects can be fascinating precisely because they're so ordinary. By starting with stories, Ponga creates a readily accessible, bite-sized way to start with the stories you know. As a family historian, you might have collected a lot of stories that others in your extended family would want to know. By crafting them into a narrative, that can be overwhelming. And will the younger generation even read it? Storing source documents you reference in archival storage like permanent.org, you can have the confidence that your story will be here for your family to enjoy when they're ready to appreciate it. The structures we're already familiar with for written narratives like family histories usually follow a progression of time. They begin when the hero was born and end when the hero dies. The story told in Ponga, you can curate a family legacy through time as well, though a few visual metaphors can be helpful. We talk about family trees so often we forget it's even a metaphor. Start with a tree referencing family members and create an image of it. It could be as simple as a screenshot or as complex as a purchased family tree design embellished with names in Canva. It doesn't matter. Each person on the tree can be a link to a written story, a Ponga album, and additional context to tell their story. A timeline of history, a landscape as a timeline, a map of travels. You can start with a single image through a photograph or an illustration, and that presents the metaphor. As you go back to it, users can know where they're going and where they've been. While the features and functions of Ponga are consistent across all three of these use cases, they serve as useful examples. You want to consider variables when you think about the problem you are trying to solve, the number of people involved, and their objective. You can also look at different kinds of events where Ponga can have an important role, such as helping family historians, genealogists, or cultural interest groups collect research and stories from communities of elders and experts, planning for reunions and other special events, collecting stories to share at family celebrations like weddings, memorials, and milestone birthdays, Zoom sessions to connect people to your notes and question inconsistent details. Traditional photo books are wonderful deliverables as mementos, but they can also sit on the shelf and get dusty. Videos are a delightful way to share a moment, but they're most compelling when they're shared at an event, where the experience of watching it passively can also be interactive. So there you have it. When we point, we're often communicating about something that we or the people we're talking to don't have the language for. What we're doing with Ponga is using the visual or spatial context of a photo to be more specific about what our intent is without using words. By letting you make communications visual, Ponga gives you an easy way to have a conversation or tell a story using photographs, scans, and illustrations. Have fun with it. The Roots Tech organizers asked us to give 2 courses in addition to our videos here in our booth. One describes a way to use Ponga to zoom over the generation gap with pictures. The second talks about using Ponga to connect stories in pictures to archives in permanent.org. One of our members, Victoria McGregor, is also giving a course titled Family Tree Presentation and Sharing, which is absolutely inspiring. Take a moment to check those out. We're also offering a series of notes, tips, and downloadables, capturing some of the detail mentioned in this and our other videos. Look for those links in our virtual booth. During the live session of Roots Tech 2022, we'll be available for live chat, workshops, and Zoom conversations from our booth. Look for the links there. We'll be delighted to have the opportunity to talk to you personally and answer any questions you might have. Finally, in celebration of this annual Roots Tech program, we have some special offers and invitations available from our website at ponga.com. Again, thank you so much for watching.